Look, Hurts, just bench him. Like, I don't care if he is okay right now. Like, just say he's still in concussion protocol and let him rest another
I
week.
mean, it was a tough decision for everyone involved. I'm sure he talked to all the coaches, Hallie, Jeffrey Lurie. I'm sure they were all involved in this decision, and it's been what we've been talking about. I mean,
A
you dug
Christmas
yourself.
miracle.
Yeah, but it was a Christmas miracle to beat the Celtics. Let's just say that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Philly Sports Now, a Philly fan podcast. My name is Zach. With me is Andrew, and we're back to talk all things Philly sports. Now, the Eagles have finally clinched the NFC East. It is once again a Philadelphia Eagles title. It's so funny. They came onto the field with the shirts, the sideline shirts, the sideline hats, whatever. And what was it? Zach Burnham was interviewing Devonte Smith, who like threw his on the ground or something, and he was like, "Hey," or no, he walked by it on the ground, and Burnham said, "Hey, do you like? I don't know if you saw you dropped your hat." He's like, "Yeah, I don't need that." They just do not care about getting the NFC East title, and I gotta love it because it shows how ready they are for what's to come. They don't care about this. They've done this. It's in the past. It's all here. They want what's next. And it's definitely a Super Bowl looking season. And you gotta love it after a ginormous 41-7 win over your Dallas Cowboys. It's just love to see it. It just brings a tear to my eye in pure joy seeing us clinch the division over the Dallas Cowboys. Saquon Barkley getting over 2,000 yards in a season against the Dallas Cowboys. We are sure to talk about that because there is actually breaking news as we record the podcast on January 1st, 2025. Happy New Year's, by the way. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. I hope everyone had a great holiday season as we get ready here for the Eagles to take on the New York Giants. And it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like you said, I mean they're here for the next part of the season. And the schedule will start here in 2 weeks now, and you see that with a lot of these guys. I mean, Darius Slay, three-time Pro Bowler since coming to the Eagles. The one thing he's missing is that Super Bowl ring on his Eagles resume. Same thing. I mean, with these guys. They've all been here. Lane Johnson, obviously, and the guys that have been on the Super Bowl team, they all know what they got to do next. And 2 years ago, you won the division and didn't get the job done. Last year, you made the playoffs and had the early exit. So they're ready to make the change here. And for some guys, it's a first time division winning team, like Barkley, first time winning the division. So these other guys get a new taste of something, but they want the next step as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see now. Like I said, there is a press conference going on, which pretty wild. They have a press conference on New Year's Day. Like they didn't postpone that a day. It doesn't surprise me they have
You got to
practice, but
practice.
just it's funny. Anyway, I mean, look, we could talk about the Dallas game before we go into the future of the Eagles. It's a pretty cut and dry. I mean, it was, we still have Cooper Rush for Cowboys playing. I think the biggest headline is that Kenny Pickett, who was doing pretty well, goes down, and you have what's his name,
Tanner
McKee
McKee.
going,
Yep, Tanner
and
McKee.
he gets what was it, two touchdowns? Wait, yeah, two touchdowns. Like your third string quarterback going in there and performing pretty flawlessly in this game. I'm not gonna say like, oh, okay, so McKee can go win us the Super Bowl. It's the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are atrocious this season. So I think it is more like it's kind of a middle ground. The Cowboys are so bad you can win with your third string quarterback, but also he's not as bad as it might seem as a third string. So a little bit of both sides there.
Yeah, I know a lot of people liked him in preseason and thought they could have traded hypothetically Kenny Pickett and made him the backup. So I think this giving him the chance to go out there and see what he had, it is big. I mean, and I mean in the press conference today, they just mentioned Hurts is still in concussion protocol, so you don't know what his status is going to be. I mean, I expect him to hopefully be ready, or not expect, but hopefully he's ready to go here in 2 weeks for the playoff game. Because with him being a concussion protocol, he's probably not going to play on Sunday, obviously. So, and then obviously, like you said, Kenny Pickett left the game early with rib injuries, so that's never an easy thing either. So you really don't know what your quarterback status is right now. So I expect Tanner to start on Sunday and at least get him more reps. So if you do need him to step in, he's ready to go.
Yeah, so that's the crazy thing. So wait, did we get more information on Pickett's injury? Did you say that? Did I miss that?
I just his ribs, but they never said anything further. They just
So
is
that's
being
that's my biggest, I guess, question mark right now is that look, Hurts, just bench him. Like I don't care if he is okay right now. Like just say he's still in concussion protocol and let him rest another week. Like concussions are serious, uh, as we all know, and it's just not worth it. Like it is truly a meaningless game coming up. So just push him to the playoffs, right? I hate the rust factor, but I think the injury is more important in this situation. Now, regarding Pickett and McKee, I also agree. I assume McKee's going to start this weekend. However, I did want to kind of bring up this isn't like at anyone specifically, but like I like Pickett, man, and I thought he did pretty well with this offense. And I'm not saying there's a lot of Pickett hate like on the internet or anything, but I feel like there's not enough Pickett enough I guess support in this fan base right now. Like he did pretty well. He's a Philly guy, like not Philly like the city, but he's an Eagles fan from his childhood. There's the pictures of him in a I think it's a Wentz jersey, and then there's another jersey for sure. But like I don't know, man. I like Pickett. He did pretty well. He went 10 for 15, 143 yards before he got taken out of the game. Like I'm not again. Could Pickett take us to the Super Bowl? Maybe. Like I don't think he's great, but I think the rest of the team is so good that like it kind of you can rotate him in a little bit. But I feel like there's a lot of like not Pickett love is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up performing at Pittsburgh, so he already had a high step. He didn't do great in the preseason, so again, he was already behind the eight ball before jumping in because this rookie Tanner McKee drafted played so well in preseason. And
Yeah, but
then
preseason's
and
so fake
then he
is the best
loses
way.
the game to Washington. Um, so I mean, he came in with a bad reputation already just because of that. So I mean, he got a pretty good standing ovation when he left the field. So I think that they're behind him, but it's just more he had a lot more to get done and prove than anyone else
Now,
from Sunday.
if Pickett's out due to an injury this week and McKee starts, does that mean they have to pull in another quarterback for backup?
Yeah, that's they last week they signed Ian Book to the practice squad and made him the emergency quarterback,
Okay.
quarterback from Notre Dame.
Okay. Was he Notre Dame last year?
It's been a few years now. He was actually with us before, I think, as a fourth string guy or been on our training camp roster.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, yeah, look, like I said, this game was pretty cut and dry. Eagles took control fairly early and just kind of ran with it, literally, with Barkley getting his 2,000 yards. Anything you want to talk about with this game specifically?
Yeah, just a special game for Barkley. Congrats to him getting that 2,000 mark. I mean, football's been around for how long now, and he's only the ninth running back to reach that mark. So just an incredible number for him. And I mean, I think he had what 30 yards at halftime. So just an incredible second half for him too.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like you were struggling the first half. You were up 24-7 at halftime, but he just wasn't getting his reps. And then you had him take off in that second half, and they made sure to get him that 2,000 mark. And you saw him kind of stop the game and then pull him. So kind of knew what their goal was for that game.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we can just go into it. So with him getting his over 2005 yards specifically, this puts him 100 yards from the Dickerson running record, 101 yards from breaking the record with one game left against the New York Giants. Now, due to the way that Detroit has won and due to Minnesota winning, the first seed is just it's out the door. It's non-existent. It's not happening. Um, so we've solidified the second seed, and that's it. So this game doesn't mean anything. Now, the breaking news as of the press conference that just happened is that Sirianni expects to bench Saquon Barkley. The exact words are Barkley is probably going to be a player that rests. Now, I can't be upset about this, but I look. I want him to break the record. I want Barkley to break the record as an Eagle. I think this is like all solidifying him as an Eagle over a Giant in one season as opposed to his six there or four or whatever it was. Like it's just I love solidifying this Penn State alumni who is a great person, who is an even greater player. Like solidifying him as an Eagle over a Giant is just making me so happy. So like the 2,000 yards is already done doing that, which I know they talked about the offensive line being interviewed and saying like that was goal number one for them was him getting 2,000 yards. Um, and I know Barkley, we know Barkley from his interviews this season. Like, I forget which game it was earlier in the year. I
The
think it might have been
Giants.
the other Giants game, but when he literally benched himself, right? He's like, yeah, let the young blood eat, I think is what he said, right? And it's like he could like think of how much closer he'd be to the record if he didn't sit that game that he didn't need to. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I
so
think he
it's
sat three fourth quarters. Sorry to cut you off.
that's so like it's crazy to think that he could actually have it already, right?
Yeah,
And I really want him to break it because he deserves it. Now, I don't we're not watching the press conference right now. We're not getting all the information. We'll get more as it comes out, but what I hope and I think Sirianni is enough of a player's man that he did this was he went to Barkley and he said, "What do you want to do?" Because I truly, at this point, with it being that close, would put it as a Barkley decision because he deserves to make that decision. Like we talked about before, like how much the coach controls decision making, how it's up to him to make the smart in-game decision. It's up to him play calling and all that stuff, even though that's not Sirianni's thing, blah blah blah, whatever. But like when it comes to this moment, a historic moment, like quite literally historical in the NFL, I think you have to let the man who's trying to make history make that decision. And I'm guessing he did do that. I'm guessing Sirianni and Barkley sat down, offensive line probably as well, maybe separately, maybe together. I don't know. But like, I'm guessing they sat down and they had a conversation. Now, I didn't expect Sirianni to announce Barkley would rest today. I thought it would kind of be a game day decision, publicly. I knew he would have made that decision by then, but I kind of just think for the sake of secrecy and play calling and planning and all that, you keep that under the books, under the rug. But I man, I really want to see him break it. If they're not going to let him play, you can't be mad about it. You can be disappointed, but you can't be mad, and that's kind of where it's at. Yeah, I don't know. I just also think it's funny because he only needs 100 yards. He could do that in like a quarter and a half, I think, against the Giants.
yeah. I mean, it was a tough decision for everyone involved. I'm sure he talked to all the coaches, Hallie, Jeffrey Lurie. I'm sure they were all involved in this decision. I mean, like you said, he would have broken it if he didn't rest so many quarters throughout the year. I mean, even last game, imagine if he didn't pull him there early in the fourth quarter and say he even knocks out another 50 yards. I mean, is this a different decision? I think a key decision in this went with how early the bye week was, being bye week 5. So this group hasn't had off since week 5. I think if you had a bye week, say week 11, and they were off just 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think you could
Or
have
if
a
you had
different.
that one seed clinched and you knew you were going to get a rest week, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that too. So I think there's a lot of different things. I think, I get it where they're coming from. I mean, there's obviously examples in both sides. I think the year you rested or when Wentz got the concussion against Seattle, I think they rested him that week and then he gets hurt in that game. So obviously you can get hurt on any given play. But there's also last year where you played with nothing and AJ Brown got hurt and then he ends up missing that Tampa Bay game. So I mean, I think that had a factor in with how recent of an issue that was last year when you played a guy and he got hurt when the game didn't matter. So I think a lot of things went into here, and I think for sure he talked to Barkley. I mean, I don't think you make this decision without talking to Barkley, and because I mean, you do this without talking to anyone, you could really damage the locker room in the sense going into the
Absolutely.
playoffs. So, I mean, I think you have to figure he talked to everyone possible in this decision. And I think also, again, I mean, you have a quarterback right now, if not two quarterbacks who are questionable each week. So you're already not healthy as it is, which I think probably causes concern there. Because hypothetically, if Hurts can't go in the playoff game, you need to make sure Barkley's 100% ready to go because you're going to lean more heavy on the running game than you already would. So I think the state of this team and the early bye week is probably what made this decision happen.
I also like everything you're saying makes sense and it all maps out, but I think something we haven't talked about too, and we haven't really talked about it all season, is like so you mentioned the amount of times Barkley has rested in the fourth quarter, right? I think you said three full quarters specifically. Um, and it's also, man, how am I trying to word this? But it's also a commendment to the planning of this organization because going into the season, I remember once Barkley was confirmed an Eagle, some things a lot of Giants fans were chirping on Twitter, the old back and forth between fan bases was, well, have fun with that, uh injury prone running back because Barkley got hurt a lot with the Giants. And I think it says a lot to how well they've played this season, not just how well he is as a running back, but how well it's been planned out. Like resting him properly is important. And they were doing it so well that he showed that he is not injury prone. He is actually the greatest running back of this generation.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what makes this such a tough decision too, and a shame. Like you said, you can't be mad. You got to understand the decision, but you can be disappointed. I think that's the way I feel with
Yeah.
it is disappointed because more than just Barkley too. I mean, think about the offensive line, how cool that is for them. I
Mhm.
mean, they don't get many stats, so just sit there and say they got to help the leading rusher and him get the record. I think they would have cared a lot for that as well. I think, I mean, everything involved with it. I mean, you look at Barkley himself. I know there's always the talk, they added the extra game, but he was still 34 carries underneath Dickerson, who has the record. So, I mean, you figure he probably would have got it in less than that. So, even though he had an extra game, he still would have got it in less
Isn't
carries.
that crazy? Even though it's an
Um,
extra game, he actually was going to break the record within Dickerson. Like that's what I also saw another. I'm sorry I cut you off, but I also saw another stat that was like Dickerson broke the record, and I forgot who had it before him in an extra game. Like it was like, oh, this is how
yeah,
history
so,
has repeated itself.
so yeah, when Eric Dickerson broke the record, it was OJ Simpson at the time. And I think it was a 14 game season. So he broke it in the 16th game. And then when OJ Simpson broke, I think it was Jim Brown's record. There was only 12 games at the time. So again, records are meant to be broken. And obviously, in this day and age where they keep adding games, and obviously there's still talks of adding an 18th game in the near future. I mean, these records, obviously, more games will give you more chances. So, but Dickerson's going to get to keep it for another year at least. And we'll see where it goes from there. But no, yeah, it's a shame though because I really wanted it. It'd be cool to, from a fan standpoint, and the team to have that
Yeah.
record, and especially in a record that's been there for so long.
I also think it was. Look, I have in recent history become a big fan of watching MVP races pretty much thanks to Embiid. Like you get kind of heavily involved in that one, and then you kind of follow them in all the sports that we watch. You've got Harper doing it a lot. Like following the MVP race this year has been very interesting because it's him versus Christian McCaffrey last year, and he's already like clearly surpassed Christian McCaffrey last year, right? So it's like he has done so much for this team, and it's like he should be MVP of the league, but like because of how good Josh Allen is and Lamar Jackson both are, like you like it's a quarterback race, right? So the only way he wins this award is if he breaks that record. I still stand by if he breaks that record, they have no choice but to give it to Saquon Barkley.
See, I don't think you would have won it regardless, if I'm being honest. I think it's become such a popularity award, a quarterback award. I think awards, while obviously they mean a lot and everything, I think they're starting to become more about popularity and name than anything. I think you're going to see that this year in the NFL. You saw it in college football, in my opinion. They got the Heisman Trophy wrong. I thought in that they went with more of just a higher name. Um,
Oh,
and
who won? I didn't see it.
it was the guy on Colorado, Travis Hunter. I thought it should have been Ashton Jeeton.
Was it wait, we talked about this. Was it the guy that plays two positions and you
Yeah,
didn't care about that?
yeah. Um, he's not the best at either position. He's good, obviously,
It's
and he'll
just the
be a
fact that he plays two positions,
yeah.
which is
And
hilarious because when you think about it, kids play two sports all the time.
yeah.
Like, oh, he's a baseball player and a football player. It's like, okay, well, is he good at either of those?
And I mean, again, he's on Colorado. He's got Deion Sanders as coach doing the Big 12, where Boise State's obviously not a power school. And, what they did this year is special, but maybe can get them on the map a little bit more. But I mean, again, I think that's just the direction of where all these are going is just becoming more of that than the actual award winner. I feel like we have these discussions every year, and I get it's tough, obviously, because your MVP winner will come down to two really good players. But I mean, if you look at it, why is a quarterback been the winner every year since I think it was Adrian Peterson the last one out to be? And I
And
mean, for Barco to be, I think it's fourth now in the odds.
yeah,
I think Joe Burrow passed him with
that's
how great he's
crazy.
playing. But again, I think again that's where it's at, and the telling part will be Barkley will win Offensive Player of the Year.
I think
Um,
it's crazy that Burrow, like, I get it. He's had what was it, a great second half season and like blah blah blah, but like they're not a playoff team. Like it's just a laughable statement to say he's above Barkley. And I think the argument in Barkley's favor here is I think it was on the Pat McAfee show. JJ Watt was talking about how like the MVP is the most valuable player to that team in the sense that if you take him out of that team, what happens? I mean, we saw this team without Barkley last year. It was a bad situation, and that's what you see how much he's added to the locker room, to the mentality, to the I mean, to the fans. I mean, how many times do they show the crowd in the link, and all I see are 26s? It's hilarious. I mean, I love it. It's great, but like, it is amazing. He truly is MVP worthy, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I guess I'm more just kind of saying why I like his odds as MVP because I think he does represent everything an MVP does and should. Uh, if he doesn't get it, he doesn't get it. I think Josh Allen is deserving of it, even though I don't think Allen's gotten it before, right?
yeah, it's gonna be Allen or Lamar Jackson. I
I
think
don't think
they're
it's like, look, I know Jackson's having a great season, but I don't think he's deserving of three back-to-back MVPs. I just don't. Like I get it. I get it. He's great. He is great. But what have the Ravens done in the past 3 seasons that shows he deserves to be MVP 3 times in a row? Nothing. Nothing.
as much as the Bills have.
He has that's but see my argument to that is I think the Bills have a better chance at a Super Bowl odds this year than the Ravens have ever had at
I
a
agree
Super
with
Bowl. So yeah, I mean that's great. That's a great comeback. Great slap back at
that.
me. But yeah, I don't think Allen is or no, sorry, I don't think Jackson is super. I don't think he's not deserving. I just don't think it's I don't know. I don't know. I don't care. Whatever. It's not gonna be Barkley. I'm over it. Let's go.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we all right. Looking forward to the Eagles. Like I said, next week is the Giants. It's gonna be a week of backups. It's a week that doesn't matter. Whatever. I guess. Long story short, do you think we win?
Yeah, I think. I mean, you're gonna have to play some key guys because I don't think you're gonna have enough people not to. Um, Giants are the Giants, so I think you still come away with the win at home. I think it's gonna be fun having a chance to watch Tanner McKee if he gets the full game and see what he's got. But I would lean Eagles just because of our depth.
I think so too. I think the Eagles just are a better team, depth wise included. I just think it's funny. I've been seeing a lot of let the Giants win because if they win, it just hurts their draft picks that
Oh yeah,
much
and after
more.
winning last week, they'll go from 2 to 4 wins, and they might even fall out of the top 10.
It's crazy. That oh my gosh. And they're 0-5 right now in the division, so like to give them that one
Yeah,
divisional win. I don't know, man. It would just be funny. But yeah, I still think the Eagles win even with the backups. And I'm gonna sit here and hope Barkley still plays. Just give him a quarter. See what happens in a quarter. That's all I'm saying.
and that's what I was hoping for. And I know we talked about this on the phone, but even if you just split the carries, give Gainwell half and Barkley half, or give Gainwell 3/4 of the carries, and maybe use Barkley as a quote unquote backup instead. But yeah, I was hoping to get it. So all in all, disappointing. But again, you have to understand and respect the decision by Sirianni.
It's
He's
one of
thinking
those
long.
situations.
He's thinking long term.
Yes, exactly. And he's proven himself to be a good coach. Crazy. This Barkley's proven himself to be a great running back. It's one of the situations where I just wish I was a fly on the wall for that conversation because we'll never get all the details. And I just want to know exactly how that conversation went. Was Barkley straight up like was it a debate?
See,
Was someone
actually,
like I want to know so badly how people leaned in that topic in house, but we'll never know that.
Sorry to cut you off. I kind of think we will, honestly. I think we'll come out a little bit. You saw some of the guys be honest with it right after the game. Lane Johnson was pretty open with it. You could tell he wanted the rest. You could tell AJ Brown wanted the rest. Even today, AJ Brown was on the NFL Network Good Morning Football show, and he even said he's like, we got to think long term. We'll find out the decision here in an hour in the meetings at the time. But he said, I mean, as cool as it would be for Barkley to get it, I mean, we got to remember what the long picture is. So. I think you could tell the way some guys are leaning, and I don't know. I would want to know what Barkley. That's the one I really wanted to know.
And I'm glad you brought it up because I meant to say this, but the Lane Johnson comment matters because he's part of the offensive line, right? And at the end of the day, while Barkley is the one running the 101 yards, he needs those linemen to do their job to
Yeah.
get it, right? So, like, yes, you can do it with the backup line, but like, you do it with the boys kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it that was a very significant comment that was made directly after that game because in that situation, if you're going into the next game trying to get the record, you essentially have to talk those guys up to playing is already that situation.
No, okay.
So anyway, I think the Eagles win against the Giants just because Giants are just trash this year. Um, yeah, we'll see what happens. But anything else, Andrew, on the Eagles before we get going?
The last thing I know, obviously, next week we'll be doing a preview for the playoffs. But since this is the last week, would you rather Washington or Green Bay as as we get set for the final week? 'Cause that's really the only thing in question for the playoffs. The field is set; it's just a matter of seeding.
Yeah, I actually have a tough back and forth on this one. I don't like either team if I'm honest.
Either meaning
We've talked
matchup
about
wise
it.
or
Sorry, say that again.
either team meaning matchup wise or meaning like
Matchup. I mean, we've talked about it earlier in the season, but I don't think the Commanders go very far because they're running on it's like the Phillies when they went to the 2022 World Series, which, they went to the World Series, so, I should bite my tongue, I guess. But like you're running on free money. You have nothing to lose in that situation, right? They are using a rookie quarterback who's going to get rookie of the year, like deserving of it, like but you don't expect that team to go win a Super Bowl. So realistically, you want the Commanders in this matchup. I just don't like having division matchups in the playoffs. It scares me. It really does. Both teams know each other. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like even though I think the Eagles are a better team, absolutely not a question. Washington knows Philly. Philly knows Washington. Like it's I think it's a tougher matchup than people are giving it credit for. Uh Now that being said, I don't like Green Bay either. Green Bay looks like a Super Bowl team. I think they are a scary good team. And I hate to be me, I'm like always about the odds and the vibes, but like we already beat Green Bay this year, so the balancing that out isn't in our favor as opposed to Washington. We're 1-1, so it's anyone's game in the odds situation there. um
I will
Regardless, I
say
think the Eagles are a better team. I will say all this. I will pick Washington as who I'd rather see. I just don't like it either way.
no, I agree with you. I'd rather Washington. I will say Jaden McDaniels, I think his running ability causes the Eagles a little bit more issues there in that sense. I think top to bottom, the Packers the better team defensively and offensively. I think in regards to the rematch, I think with that being week one and it was overseas too, I think it's got less value than it usually would for me, just
Sure.
because of that. You're so much different. Both teams are a little more banged up, and you actually get a game in your place rather than overseas. Um, so with that being said, yeah, I think I'd rather Washington as well. I don't know if you saw this there, at least I think it was FanDuel maybe put out like a playoff preview, I guess, for the wild card rounds, and they'd have the Eagles opening up as 2.5 point favorites against the Packers.
Wow. I like that
To go
though.
off your odds.
That's not bad. I like
No,
it. I kind of feel like that makes sense. I mean
yeah.
that puts us pretty even because I think you get like -2, -3 for home field advantage, which we'll have as the 2 seed. But I might say -4 would have been what I picked because I do think we have the odds or -3.5. Like
I think you're correct. I think once they get more of a Hurts feeling, I think it will go up to 4.5 to 5. I
I
think.
know the books.
I mean, I'm just guessing, but I think right now they don't even know. Like we just
True.
don't with him because Sirianni said he's still in concussion protocol, which means he's still got symptoms. So
I,
that's not good.
I
So
will say -2.5 with either Pickett or McKee is a pretty generous -2.5.
yeah, no, it
If
is.
that is what that's assuming, that's pretty awesome,
Yeah,
actually. Um, cool. No, yeah, I hope for Washington. It does look like it's going to be Green Bay though.
yeah.
What's the because why? I forget. I know I knew this, but why?
Tiebreakers. They got the same record. I think Washington's got a better in conference record.
Okay, so probably going to be Green Bay. Hoping for Washington. We'll see what happens after this week. Let's wrap this up here. Just quickly some Sixers talk, and we'll get into Flyers next time. Look, we'll have an hour and a half episode next week, guys. I
Yeah.
promise. But just quick some Sixers flowers, man. Sixers are on a winning streak of 4 games. This is the longest winning streak of the season. I want to say yes.
Yep. This is. And it's been what we've been talking about. I mean,
A
you dug
Christmas
yourself.
miracle.
Yeah, well, it was a Christmas miracle to beat the Celtics. Let's just say that. But no, I think with everything that started the season, and I said it, I didn't want to judge where this team was until we saw all their December games, and they finished the month of December 9-3. I put this in our group chat. This team's officially back. Now, what does that mean? It means they're fun to watch. You fully expect them to be in every game. They could have a chance to go win it against anybody. But now the question is, where can you climb to? Because again, I think this team's back in the sense of fun to watch and what we expected from them. But you obviously did dig yourself a hole, winning, I think it was 4 of the first 17 games. So now you do have to make a big climb. You got into the play-in spot. You're tied for that play-in spot there for the playoffs, which is a good start. You're 2 out of the official playoffs as the 6th seed, and 4 out of the. Think about it, this team's only 4 games. I think it's 4.5 games back of hosting the first round of the playoffs as a 4 seed. So this team is going in the right direction, and it starts with a game here on New Year's Day and then a game tomorrow as well. So back to back. So they already ruled Embiid out the first game of the 2, which is the right decision. Kings are worse than the Warriors, so maybe you can steal one without Embiid, and they get a win on the back to back nights. So I think this team's in the right direction, and the depth is really stepping up here.
And how are we on injuries right now?
Couple minor ones. Andre Drummond's missed the last few games. With them rolling Embiid out in this first game, it kind of tells me Drummond might be back for tonight's game. But if not, he's out, and then KJ Martin's out. And those are really your only 2 and big role players, but the big pieces are finally looking healthy. And
Yeah.
Embiid against the Trailblazers really looked like himself. He was moving quick. And even the last few games he has, but that Trailblazers game really looked like the Embiid we're used to.
Now looking ahead, we have coming up tonight the Kings, we have Golden State, we have the Brooklyn Nets, and we have the Phoenix Suns. Andrew, out of those games, which one game specifically do you say the fans should be watching?
Obviously, the easy pick would be a road game against the Warriors. Obviously Curry and all that fun. But I'm gonna look at the Monday game after this team really turned the corner. You're back home after a 6-game road trip to close out the 2024 year and open up the 2025 year. You get to go against some big names and Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal. So and you're back home. So I'm excited to see that game. How the crowd. I mean, they still were showing out, but now that this team is starting to win, I think you get that loud rocking Wells Fargo Center back for that fun game against the Suns against some top tier superstars.
Hey, real quick, just want to add to it. It is kind of saying a lot that this winning streak, longest winning streak of the season. I know it's only 4 games, but this winning streak being a road streak, like they're not even home in any of these games so far. Oh well, sorry, the start of the streak
Yeah,
was at home, but like I think that says a lot. I think historically the Sixers during bad seasons don't play well on the road, so them kind of ramping up on the road is. I'm not saying they're back, but I'm saying it's interesting. They have my attention.
I already said it. They're back.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to Philly Sports Now, a Philly fan podcast. You can find us everywhere. Links, description, all that jazz. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. Subscribed on YouTube if you haven't. The Philly Gamer. I'm Zach. That's Andrew. As always, go Birds.
Go Bird.